booming out all over South Spartanburg. I mean, it went everywhere. It's still echoing through the trees 25 years later. I remember exactly what he said. He said, I am the strongest man ever to walk the face of this earth. He said, I've lifted more weight than anybody. He said, I'm included in the Guinness World Book of Records. He said, I'm an Olympic champion. I have a gold medal that has hung around my neck. He said, people throughout the Soviet Union have called me a wonder of nature. And I was crouched over here, kind of holding my breath because I didn't know him all that well. And I said, ooh, boy, what a conceited guy we brought here tonight. You know, what's he going to do next? And he said, I want you to know all of these things that have happened in my life are secondary in my life. He said, the most important thing in my life is my Christian faith. And then before he left, he said to those people this night, this isn't a ballpark. I mean, this is before it's kind of, there was no baseball chapel or football chapel then. This was radical. And Paul said, if I'm the strongest man in the world and I can't get through 1 minute of my life without Jesus Christ as the centerpiece of my life, he said, how about the rest of you? And that was it. He walked off the field, and he got a standing ovation.
Many who saw Paul Anderson at their school or church were small children at the time. R.B. Legrune was one such child, who some 30 years later vividly remembers seeing the strongest man on earth.
For the first time, I saw Paul Anderson at East End Elementary School. That's in Greenwood, South Carolina, around the year 1963. I guess I was probably about 11 years old at that time. I guess the most amazing thing to me was the mere fact when we first originally saw Paul. Personally, I didn't think he could lift anything, you know, being honest with you. However, he proved us all wrong. As a child, you know, we tend to look through the small glass, so to speak, and he proceeded to the stage where they had the heavy weight, and he proceeded to squat, to lift the weight up, and he came all the way up, and all of the kids' eyes got big. You know, it was amazing. It was truly amazing. And then he went from there too, after he, you know, rested for about, I guess, 5 or 10 minutes or so, to what I call the headbutt with the blocks, and he just busted his head, and the eyes got big again. You know, it was amazing again. You know, and then from there to the nail drive with the, you know, with his hand through the board, and it was just, to me, incredible. I truly enjoyed that.
Recognize every place I go, not by face, I don't think as much as by size. If someone will say, well, who is the fellow there? And I'll say, oh, no, that's Paul Anderson, weightlifter, he's big. And it just different. My response has to do with the response of the person who would recognize me. And as a rule, someone comes up, are you Paul Anderson? And yes, and I love to be recognized naturally, and because all athletes do, especially old athletes. But I would cringe then just a little bit because they say, are you Paul Anderson? Yes. And then they're going to say, how much can you lift? And I've heard that 10 million times. So it's real refreshing if someone comes up and says, you Paul Anderson? Yes. Well, you know, I saw you here, there, and the other, and I really enjoyed your Christian witness. And I appreciate that. And that's one of the greatest things there is about being recognized. I've always been taught that everything we have comes from God, and even before I was a committed Christian, I knew these things, and so I knew God had given me the strength and given me the ability, because other people were as big as I was, even though I was a huge person. Other people had worked as hard, but I had the ability to build the strength. God had given me something special. So I have never been a humble person as far as, you know, the clod kicker is, man, and this, that, and the other. I've always had the confidence and always felt that I could accomplish anything, but I always knew where any accomplishment I made came from Almighty God. Being a patriot and speaking on patriotism a great deal, and being a Christian, sometimes I am asked, do the two things conflict? Being very patriotic to your country and, of course, loyal to God, because it's the God of the whole world. And, of course, my feeling on this and my answer to this is the fact that we've got to be loyal. You've got to be loyal to something. I always say that I think a great deal of Paul Anderson. In fact, I just love Paul Anderson. And loving Paul Anderson, I can love other people. And I love my country. I love the United States of America, and loving America, I can love other countries. If I would look down on my country and say that I was just, well, you know, like some would say today, be a citizen of the world, well, you're not really loyal to anything. So I think that I can love peoples of other lands because I love my land and have nothing to be insecure about.
Over the years, the youth home has had numerous changes and setbacks, but one thing that has remained constant is the home's dedication to the boys and its tremendous success. Their formula? Love, hard work and discipline, and the teaching of Christian values. How successful have they been? We searched out several of the graduates of the home, as well as several of those who believe in the home so much that they are willing to donate their time and money so that the Paul Anderson Youth Home can continue for years to come serving those in need of help. Our first interview was with Mr. and Mrs. Stuart Thompson, whose son Jim arrived at the Paul Anderson Youth Home in the back seat of a police car.
Well, as I was saying, Jim was a problem since he was an infant. In second grade, he was diagnosed as being, well, he wasn't diagnosed, he was put in a behavioral disorder program and also placed on the Target program, which is the accelerated program, and that was in second grade. School problems continued to worsen from there on out. They never got any better. By 8th grade, he was expelled 4 times. We even had to go to a meeting to keep him in school. They did not want to even keep him at school at all. They wanted to send him to a place where kids are that are totally unruly and cannot be kept in school. Things got worse and worse to where he got in trouble with the law. First time he was picked up by the cops, he was only 13 years old.
Jim was pretty much of a con artist. Judge Gober, who was one of probably the 3 or 4 judges that he was up against, had probably sized Jim up more than anybody has from the legal end of it. Said that he was the biggest con artist he'd ever met in his life. That this was when Jim had just stolen the car, and he says, "You've almost got me convinced that you didn't take that car." It says these policemen said they pulled you out of it when you wrecked it.
Things escalated. They got worse and worse to the point that he was stealing cars, and he was in drugs, and one thing and another, until we had to find help for him somewhere. We gave up. There was nothing else we could do.
Paul Anderson is he's a man that I respect and admire, and I really owe him a lot in my life because he really helped change my life. You know, before I came under his, went to his school, I was a high school dropout and had a lot of problems and stuff, and now I'm in college and I'm doing better than I ever thought I would. And so my personal feelings about him are I'm really just thankful that God put him in my life, and that I was able to be helped by his program and his ministry.
He's presently at Nellis Georgia College, and will be graduating hopefully in December. Excellent grades. Probably has his life together better than any 21-year-old kid that I've seen. I'm proud of Jim, and I'm proud of everything that he stands for.
I plan on going to graduate school and going to perhaps seminary and becoming like a Christian counselor, getting my doctorate and working with adolescents that have problems like my own, whether it be problems with drugs or alcohol or family or the law. So not only did he change my life for the better, but he also did, give me a purpose and a direction and just a desire to help others in the same way that he helped me.
I can't thank Paul and Glenda Anderson enough for what they've done. They've done it with the Lord's help, and they will tell you themselves that they didn't do it. The Lord did it, but they were his messengers, and he needed that help. We couldn't give it to him.
Jim and I were probably the worst of enemies, and we both let each other know that we really hated each other, and there was no secret about it. And Jim introduces me to his friends now. This is my best friend, but he also is my dad, and that's a great feeling to have.
The youth home basically has taught me everything in my life that I use today. It's given me a real focus for my life here at North Georgia College today, and I think it set a foundation really for my entire life, because I know that I would never be able to make it here at North Georgia College with everything that's going on around me if I had not had the youth home for my foundation. First of all, Paul Anderson, I feel like it was through him the Lord Jesus was really able to have a chance to work in my life, and it was through him that I had opportunity to accept Christ into my life, and through him that he put the staff there and the people that are there that changed my life today.
I didn't see Paul for the first month I was at the youth home, and it sort of gotten acclimated to the way things were, but when Paul did eventually get a chance to talk to me, there was such a profound impact by the man and what he said that I still remember that day to this day, and will take that day with me for the rest of my life. Just the spiritualness, the self-confidence, there's just so many words that are in the English language that you can't describe it with. That day will always just be one of the best days in my life, you might want to say. He gives you he comes across in such a way, especially with the younger men, that he has an influence on, and he has such a strong influence on those people. Within 5 minutes of meeting the man, your life is totally changed for the better. I can't say anything bad about Paul Anderson. Paul Anderson always gave you the right things to say. He always had the right answer. And I think that goes back to his closeness with the Lord, and that in itself, you can just see that radiating out of the man.
I've had the opportunity that a lot of the students at the home now don't have. I got to play football with Paul on Sundays. We had touch football games. And I saw the strongest man in the world be the most gentle person that you could ever imagine possible. I do remember the first time I did something wrong, and I was asked to bend over and grab my ankles, and I expected the worst, but what I got was punishment that I deserved, and that was all. For a man to be as strong as he was, to be so gentle and understanding of problems of society, with youth, with the things that we would face as we grew older and became adults and became people in the workforce of America, became respectable citizens and responsible parents. It's truly amazing. Everything that I have today, I honestly can say I owe to the values that were instilled by Paul and Glenda while living at the home.
Trying to think back what year it was many years ago, maybe as long as 35 years ago. I don't remember exactly, but I guess I passed Paul Anderson on the expressway heading towards Atlanta, and as I saw him riding that bicycle, it reminded me of an elephant being on a bicycle. And fortunately, he stopped by my restaurant, which is located on 4119, and for a sandwich, and he came in, and I believe that was the first contact I'd had with Paul Anderson, but I was impressed, and to know that he was, his intention was to pedal his bicycle to Father Flanagan's Boys Town to attract some attention about a boys' home that he intended to start down at Vidalia. I remember my son keep telling about the story of him going to the hotel room to pick up Paul Anderson there, and about him sitting there in his room waiting